Hi everyone, my name is Michael Haddadden, Dr. Haddadden, and I have been Patrick's doctor for the past, 2, 3 years maybe?
2 years.
Yeah, and it's been a pleasure. So he asked me to take part of this lovely video, which I think actually it's a pretty great idea. It's a very nice idea. So Patrick runs a YouTube channel with a lot of subscribers, and make sure guys to subscribe more. And he shared with me a few hilarious comments on St. Patrick Day here. We're here today. So Smith9809 said YouTube should have kept this video blocked. And Jackknife8317 said, "Look, you guys, the worst reactor of all time." And probably my favorite goes to Elvis D3947. "Do you hate Nick tattoos because your own anatomy doesn't allow you to have it?" I can tell probably they don't know Patrick's side, the one that I know.
Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick Musilek, and exactly 1 year ago today, I filmed this video.
Hello, everybody. Today is our last day in the hospital, and we have just taken the entire day basically to pack up this entire room, and we are going to be heading back home. I do not have to be living here in the hospital anymore. And this is a very great day, and so we are now free to leave and take off. So that is what I am going to do. Auf Wiedersehen, good night, and goodbye.
So yes, if you can believe it or not, 1 year ago today, on July 15th, 2025, it is today, July 15th, 2026, but 1 year ago today, we left the hospital after having lived there, stayed there for 103 days. After my bone marrow transplant that happened on April 4th, I believe it was, last year, and we spent 100 days in the hospital. And so we recorded the last cancer update. That would be volume 5. This is cancer update volume 6. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. If this is your first video here, know that I was diagnosed with cancer with leukemia, ALL, back at the beginning of 2024. Very, very beginning of 2024. We went through a whole year of treating the cancer and pushing it back with chemotherapy and lots of drugs and lots of things. I had a very, very aggressive treatment that I was basically treated. I was 38 years old when I was diagnosed, or I was 37 when I was diagnosed, I think. And I am 39 now. I'll be turning 40 in a couple of months in October. But because I was under that 40-year age limit, I was treated basically with a pediatric cancer sort of regimen, which is the most intense regimen of treatment that a person can have. And so we went through a whole year of that, or I would say actually we went through about 9.5 months of that. And then in October of 2024, we found out that that we'd done everything we could, and the cancer was pushed back to basically being not in my system at all. However, it was starting to come back, so I would need a transplant. So I was put on the transplant list. They found me a donor, and 5 months later, I think it was 4 months, I was hooked up to this medication called Blincyto to keep the level of cancer in my system at the lowest possible. And then we were sent to the hospital to have the transplant on April 4th. And we did a week of radiation therapy and intense chemotherapy before we had the transplant, so that my immune system was as low as possible. Basically, my immune system was basically completely taken away from me. It was brought down to absolute zero. My white blood cell count, things like that, everything was so incredibly low. then they put someone else's immune system inside of me, basically. A person who I don't know. I have not met the person. I don't know who it was. I have to wait, I believe, 3 years after the transplant to make sure that everything worked before you can make contact if both parties want to. I believe I have to sign a document, they have to sign a document, and then we can get connected if we want to. And I will do that on my end when the time comes for me to make that decision, and then it will be up to the other person if they want to know whether or not the transplant was successful, which so far, I'm happy to say everything's been going well. But anyway, we did the transplant, then we had to stay in the hospital for 100 days. We were actually there for 103 days, and we filmed the last video in this series, Cancer Update Volume 5, on the day before. We actually filmed it on July 14th. So we filmed that one on the day before we left, on July 14th, 2025. Then the following day, we left the hospital. And I have done one tiny update video since then in April of this year, because I did a special video here on the channel where me and my 3 friends that I do reactions with here on the channel. Normally this is a music reaction channel and we react to full album reactions. We do full albums. And I had the other guys here on the channel react to one of my favorite albums of all time, the Gorillaz debut album. And so I made this sort of like celebrating my cancer journey video for the first 10 minutes of that video. So I do have that video here on the channel you can check out. I uploaded it separately as well, but that's the last time I've really spoken about it, other than just having little updates here and there, talking about, you know, my journey through this whole process. Every time I record a little video, if it's relevant to every time I record a video for the channel, no matter what we're doing, if it's relevant for me to mention something like I went to the doctor, did this, got this news, did this, whatever, reached this milestone or whatever, I mention things like that throughout the videos. But I haven't done a video just sitting down and talking about what's been going on since we left the hospital for the last year. And it was my intention to do more of these, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And if you are someone that did watch Volume 5, you will know that we didn't record a video for a year or so before that. And so it's been long periods of time, I guess is basically what I'm saying. And so the first thing I want to say to get it out of the way here at the beginning is that everything is going great. Everything has been going really smoothly. I'm I would say that I'm pretty healthy. I would say I'm more healthy than I was before I was diagnosed with cancer and before I even started to show symptoms. You know, I wasn't exactly the healthiest person in the world. I was definitely overweight, and I had problems with certain things here and there. No like lingering issues or anything like that. Nothing that was, too bad, but something that was, I wasn't a super healthy person. And then I lost 80 pounds in 2024, or actually I had lost 80 pounds before I was diagnosed. We found out I had cancer and that I had lost so much weight. And then over the next year or so, I gained about 90 pounds back. And then after I was given the Blincyto, or no, that's what it was. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. So anyway, you know what? It doesn't matter. I lost a lot of weight, then was diagnosed with cancer. That was one of the reasons we found out. And then I went through a year of treatment, and then I was given this medication in October of 2024, and I gained about 90 pounds from October of 2024 through April. Went to the hospital to have the transplant, and then after the transplant, I lost about 85 pounds after that during my time staying in the hospital. And it happened pretty rapidly. And so if you look at me now, you can see now one of my main concerns is trying to keep the weight off. And I especially don't want to start looking heavy in my face the way that I did before. And I'll maybe insert a clip or a picture of me here, what I looked like in maybe like July or so of 2024, before symptoms started to sort of manifest themselves. But anyway, so, sorry, I'm rambling. This is going to be a rambly video, by the way. But I do have some notes taken, so I can go through and actually try to keep things a little organized. But everything has been going all right. After we left the hospital, we were scheduled to go back and see the doctor at least like twice a month. So it was every other week, I think it was, for quite a while. And then we did that until my 1-year anniversary of having the transplant. So that, again, that would have been in April of this year, April 2026. And since that point, we've been going once a month. And we'll do once a month, I believe, for the rest of the duration of the 2 years. So for me and where I'm at right now, I am in the middle of the 2-year cycle. So you have the transplant, and the day you have the transplant, the day you have the transplant is like day 1, right? The day before that is day -0. And when we actually went to the hospital, I believe it was day -7. So we had -6, -7, -6, -5, -4, all the way up to day 0. And then day 1 was the day I had the transplant. And that was the day that people in the hospital and everyone was like, "It's your new birthday." And I was like, I don't want to treat it that way. My birthday is October 21st. It has been for the last 39 years. And it will continue to be so as I get older. But it is still kind of fun to think about it when that date came around this year, when we were celebrating the 1-year anniversary, which we didn't really do anything to celebrate it. But there was a lot of stuff going on and people were busy and, got stuff going on. So we didn't do anything really for it. But so that was the 1-year anniversary in April of this year. And then April of next year will be the 2-year anniversary. And that's sort of one of the big cutoff dates. And for most people who have a bone marrow transplant like I had, if you're going to have any adverse symptoms from it, whether it's GVHD, which is graft versus host disease, which is something that anybody that has any kind of a transplant can develop, and it happens differently in every person. But if I were to develop any sort of symptoms or complications based on the transplant itself, it's most likely to happen within that first 100 days. And we didn't really have many problems during that 100 days. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were days where I was very sick when we were in the hospital there. And it's honestly like a very big blur to me. And it's weird for me to even look back on it now and think back on it. But for weeks after my transplant, I really didn't ever get up and walk around. I could barely move at all. And then I slowly got to feel better. We got to explore the hospital. And that's kind of what a large part of Cancer Update Volume 5 is, the last video we recorded. Because I wanted to make sure that I had a lot of videos and that I took a lot of pictures and everything in the hospital. Because the hospital for us became a second home. And so we really grew so comfortable there. And you just have to, right? If you're going to stay there for that long. When you talk to someone about staying in the hospital for a 3-night stay, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." So think about that times, a lot. So we were there for 103 days. And so, but anyway, we came home. We had the 1-year celebration this year, and then next April I'll have my 2-year celebration, and that's the next big milestone that we'll reach. And we'll do lots of tests. We do tests generally, I think now every 4 to 6 months. So I have coming up in September, in a couple of months, we're going to be doing some different tests. And the tests that they've been running are lumbar punctures, which are things that I'm very familiar with. I think I've had over 25 now. And that's where they take a big, 7-inch needle and stick it into your spine and pull out some spinal fluid and stuff. And they use a drill to drill into your spine and everything. It sounds way worse than it is, I promise you. I've had them done so many times, it's not a big deal. And when we do go in and do those, we've had the same people do those multiple times. And they always say that they ask to have me because they know it's going to be such a fun, nice time. And there's usually 3 or 4 people in the room while that procedure is happening. And so we get to joke around with everybody, and I have to lay on my stomach when they do that. And so we're just joking around about everything. And so we do a test like that, I would say every 6 months is the schedule we're on now. The last time I had one was in April. So I believe that's why we'll be doing another one in September. And then we'll probably do another one the following April and then the following September, I would guess. I also have certain other tests that I do. They test my lung capacity and my breathing. So I have to do these tests where you breathe into a machine and it kind of tests your lungs and your breathing. And the reason for that, and the reason for all of these tests, is because, as I mentioned, I could develop symptoms or I could develop sort of complications based on the 2 reasons, basically. There could be signs that cancer is coming back. So that is something that could happen, though that's pretty unlikely. I think the percentage for that is lower. Or a much higher percentage could be, like I said, developing complications due to the transplant itself, which is what they call GVHD, graft versus host disease. And I've been very lucky so far in that I have had almost no symptoms whatsoever, no complications. The transplant worked perfectly as far as I can tell. And I have the cancer has been zero. I believe my levels are at zero or less, or, there's negligible amounts of cancer in my system. And with the type of cancer that I had, if there's any cancer in your system at all, then then it's going to get worse, and it will just multiply and it really fast. And that's kind of what was happening when they knocked my cancer down, and then it started to come back again little by little. They knew it was going to happen, and that was why they wanted to do the transplant while it was still very low in my system, and then they wanted to keep it low before the transplant, and then have the transplant when there's basically nothing there. Then they replace your immune system. So and again, I talked about all of that stuff in our last video, but so in terms of hospital stuff, we've been going monthly now, and honestly, it's been a little bit tough. That's been one of the hardest things to deal with through this process, is that we found a second home at the hospital. We became very comfortable there. And when you're the type of people like we are, where I can go for a whole week without seeing anybody other than my parents, who I still live with, other than going to church when I see in the town of 300 people where I live, and I see, the same 25 to 30 people at church. And so I can go for weeks at a time with only seeing maybe a handful of different people. And I kind of like it that way. That's fine. And my folks are like that as well. Our family is like that. We live out in the country. We've lived out in the country our whole lives. And so we don't feel very isolated. It's very comfortable for us to have time like that. But spending, after I was diagnosed with cancer and we realized what was happening, and we had to go into the hospital multiple times a week for like almost 10 months. We were going to the big city, multiple times a week for months and months and months and months. And then having the transplant and living in the hospital for 100 days, for 3 months, basically, over 3 months. It was nice to be around so many other people, and to once you get comfortable at a place, it's kind of like when you get a new job, right? And you get a job, you start working, and it's very nerve-wracking, but the more comfortable you get there, the more you fall into your routine, and the more you just are comfortable there. And that's what happened to both my mother and I at the hospital. We became so comfortable there. We searched out every nook and cranny there, and it became a home for us. It really did. I mean, you have to in that case, but we really leaned on the hospital and the people there as being like a good thing. We thought of it as a good thing the whole time we were there, and not some sort of a hindrance or something that was like preventing us from living our own lives. And so once we left there and came back home, of course it's fun to be back home, to sleep in your own bed, to be on our own yard, to mow our own grass, things like that. Not that we were mowing the grass at the hospital, although if they'd have let us, my mom would have done that for sure. She wanted to do landscaping there so much, and she would just go pull weeds outside anytime we were outside there. But anyway, it was a hard adjustment. And I don't even know if this has so much to do with the hospital itself as just like psychological mindset and just like our specific situation, but going from being around people so much to then coming back home and being much more isolated was a bit of a rocky thing. And it wasn't something that was super conscious. I wasn't conscious of the entire time. But what I noticed was I would really look forward to every time that we had to go back to the hospital, which, as I said, for quite a while, from July of last year through April of this year, so however many months that is, 7 months or whatever, we were, and I think my mom too, like we would really look forward to when we were going back to the hospital. We would go to all of our favorite shops that we had kind of found over the previous year and a half, going into Omaha a lot. And we would, go to Goodwills and things, which I really enjoy. And we would go to, around the Christmas season, we were shopping for Christmas presents. So it gives you a good excuse to go to different places. So we would use our trips into Omaha to go back and see the doctors as a way to just get out and go do different things and go to some of the places that we had gone to a lot in our traveling to the city multiple times a week for so long before that. And so as we've been dwindling down on that, and now we go to the hospital only once a month. And for example, last time I went to the hospital, so it would have been our trip there this is July, so it would have been our trip in June. My mother couldn't go with me, so she was babysitting my niece in where my sister lives, about 2.5 hours away from where we live, and so she couldn't go with me, and so I went myself. And so for her, it must feel like it's been so long since we went there and saw my doctor and saw the people around us that we see every time we go there, and it's weird. It's a weird feeling. It's not something that I was really expecting to feel, like the loss of the. You could think of it like the loss of the attention, because certainly when you have cancer, you are the center of attention when you go to the hospital, and rightfully so. And you're giving them enough money that you deserve their attention, but to lose that then and to basically be healthy, it can be somewhat shocking, like culture shock almost. And so that's been a little bit, I wouldn't even say that it was like difficult to deal with or anything like that, but it is something that I've noticed more so than any like physical symptoms. So for me, physical stuff and physical symptoms has been extremely minimal since we left the hospital. So if you will remember from that video, I had lost all that weight and I was I weighed, I think, around 230 or so when we left the hospital, maybe around 225. And now I am back up to being around 250. So I gained 20 pounds back. And I really do not want, actually, last time we went, I weighed 258. Actually, now that I think about it, it was around 260. And so I do not want to gain any more weight. I think I've learned, as my body is sort of filled back out with my arms and my legs especially. My legs were so skinny. And the filling out my legs again really I think taught me that a person's body, you can control your body only to a certain extent, but like if you're just being healthy, even generally healthy, like your body will refill itself up, will refill out if you lost a bunch of weight so fast in a really unhealthy way. And I think that's why it's important for people who are trying to lose weight to try to do it in a natural way, because then your body doesn't really know what to do with itself to build itself back up and all that stuff. But I'm not an expert on any of that junk. But why was I even mentioning that? I guess just because. Oh, that was what I was going to say. Yes. While we were at the hospital, I would wear jackets and shirts like this and stuff all the time. And my entire life before I was diagnosed was basically me being in a constant state of sweating and being hot. And that has not been the case since this all happened. I do not sweat as much. Now, as I say that, we are in the middle of 2 weeks in a row of 90 plus degrees in Nebraska every single day. And we have a very humid heat here. So it's terrible. It feels like it's in the hundreds with, the humidity, the heat index. And so it's absolutely terrible. So when I go outside now, would be working on something, I would be sweating, but it's not like it used to be. Before, I would walk outside into the sun and be drenched sweating, and I would be sweating from literally every part of my body. And now I go outside and I don't sweat as much. And all through the winter and fall season last year, so again, we left in July, from July all the way through to till it started to get actually hot in maybe like May of this year and into June, I wore like sweatshirts every day. And I still even now have a sweatshirt and a jacket and a like long robe thing that I keep downstairs here where I do a lot of my work, so that while I'm just sitting and editing and working on stuff, I can wear a sweatshirt or something. And I used to get upset at people who would wear sweatshirts and all black clothing when they were walking around in the middle of the summer. And I still do to some extent, because it's just like, come on, you want to slap that person and be like, knock it off. But I guess I understand it a little bit more now. Sometimes you just aren't hot. People just don't get hot. And I really envy those people as a person who spent 37 years of their life being hot all the time. But like I said, I don't know if as I gain more weight back, I feel like that idea of being cold and wearing a sweatshirt all the time everywhere we're going, if that's going to go away and from now on I will be back to the way I was where I'll just be hot all the time, I don't know. And that's another thing to mention too, like when something like this happens that's such like a shock to your system, people joke about, not even joke, but like you hear doctors and people say like, oh, it can sometimes take months for your body to heal itself, right? I have experienced that in real time in so many tiny ways of like, literally my body is not fully back to normal, I would say at this point, and maybe it never will be, and it won't be in some cases because of the transplant. But I have seen and witnessed firsthand that it literally can take months, up to sometimes 6 months, for a person to fully recover from things. And you don't think that that's true when you're going through something in the moment. Like if you break your arm, you're like, oh, my arm feels a little bit better, or whatever the situation is. But when you have something that like so foundationally like changes you, it takes so long for those changes to revert back, or like I said, maybe they never will. But you can just see little things changing over time, just such a long period of time. So that's just an interesting, different thing that I've noticed. But it was actually like fundamentally changed my life, actually not being hot all the time. Like whenever we would go anywhere before all this, I would wear sweatpants, or I would wear shorts and like a t-shirt almost everywhere we went. And I would sometimes wear a jacket that zipped, and then I would take the jacket off whenever we got wherever we were going. But for this last half year or so, I would just wear a sweatshirt, wherever we were going, especially over like the winter season. And that might seem crazy to people, but again, I didn't do that. I didn't wear sweatshirts. Like I never would have imagined myself being in a situation where I would wear like a pullover sweatshirt, because I would have to take that thing off anytime we went anywhere. But I wore pullover sweatshirts constantly wherever we were going, unless we were going to the hospital, because I always have to have my arms free and available for them to be stuck and to get IVs and stuff. But I would wear sweatshirts everywhere, and I would never take them off. I would leave the house with the sweatshirt on, go out, do all my stuff, do whatever I was doing, and come back and never have taken the sweatshirt off or the jacket or whatever I had on. And that would have been unheard of for me before. So that's something that has fundamentally changed. And I'm very curious to see what happens when this horrid heat finally goes away. If the heat will shock the hot back into me, or if this fall I will find myself wearing a sweatshirt again and just being okay with just not feeling as hot all the time. And I kind of hope that's the case it is, because it was very nice to not be hot all the time. But other than, I would say that's probably the biggest fundamental change to me health-wise, I would say post-transplant. I mean, obviously there's the whole gaining weight back and just kind of feeling more yourself. And I think that kind of goes without saying. But the only other things that I have had happen to me, like physically, would be that for a long time after we left the hospital, and I can't remember if this was bothering me at the time. I think it was when we were still in the hospital. But for months and months after coming home from the hospital, I had very dry skin. So my hands would be incredibly dry all the time, which they're fine now. Nothing, they look totally fine. They're a little dry still. And my skin, I would say overall, is more dry. But my arms and my hands in particular, and my face around here, my face around my eyes, so up above my eyebrows, especially on my forehead, and then around my eyes, and then up onto my nose, this was all very dry, and it would be kind of flaky and stuff. So I would have to put lotion around my eyes and on my face, which is something that I had really never done my entire life up to this point. I've never had trouble with my skin, and I've never cared enough about my appearance or anything to want to have smooth skin or anything. That's never been a thought on my mind. And I don't care about that now yet even, but my skin was so dry that I would have to put lotion on it or it just would look terrible and red. And I had rosacea for a while, and my doctor would look at it every time we went in, and be like, okay, do this, try this. I got to see my dermatologist because of it. And she was just like, keep trying to put lotion on. If it seems like you put lotion on and it does help, then the lotion's doing as much as we want it to do. We don't want to do anything else beyond that. So just keep trying it. And so my sister bought me like a bottle of lotion that was based on like I think goat's milk or something, goat milk lotion or something like that. It's based on. She also bought me a bar of soap that was like goat milk soap, I believe. And I still use the same bar of soap and I still use that same bottle of stuff. And I like it because it doesn't leave my skin feeling so like slick after the fact. I think it's probably mostly water, but that's what you want. I just want moisturizer, not really lotion. But it has helped. And for a while after we left the hospital, I could put lotion on and it wouldn't do anything. So I'd have to put lotion on like multiple times a day. And now we've gotten to the point where I think my skin is back to being kind of the way that it was. And maybe it's just getting more suns, things like that. I don't know. But my skin, I don't need to put lotion on anymore. Sometimes I will on my hands, depending on what I'm working with. You know, I have lots of old stuff, and I found that if I'm holding, like, for example, old vinyl records or antique stuff or old books especially that have that, like, old antique smell to them, that old antique feel to them, if I'm handling stuff like that, my hands get super, super dry and gross. And so I have to wash my hands constantly, which I always do anyway. And then put lotion on after that. But otherwise, I don't have to put lotion on, and I haven't put lotion on my face in like 2 months now. So that was a pretty big thing that did affect me. And twice after we left the hospital, I got like a rash. And I got a rash that was all up around my arms here, both arms, and then on my thighs especially. And on my whole leg as well, but specifically on my thighs a little bit more. It was like thicker there, or not thicker, but more obvious. And so the first time it happened, they actually did a biopsy, a skin biopsy on my left thigh. And last year they had to do one on my right thigh. So I actually have two little holes. They're both healed now, but I can see them both right here as I'm looking at my legs. I don't know if you can see. There's one. There's a hole right there. And on this side, I've got the same hole right there. But that's where they basically, it doesn't hurt at all, but they give you some lidocaine into the area of the thigh where they're going to take it, and then they basically slip this like thing that goes into your skin and then pulls out like a core sample of it, and so I've had that done on both thighs, and I laugh that they're like mirrored identical, but they did that for this rash, and it came back that and they can test that to see whether or not it's GVHD or something else. And the only thing they really care about is that it's not GVHD, because if a symptom or a condition does manifest itself and it is GVHD, it could be something that I have to live with for the rest of my life. So if some sort of a symptom were to happen, they would want to deal with it as fast as possible and try to knock it out of my system as soon as possible. Otherwise, it could be something I'd have to deal with for the rest of my life. And so I'm happy that we haven't had anything like that happen. But the skin thing was kind of weird. And it was definitely the thing that I would say was the most tiresome to deal with, because I was been so lucky this whole process, and I've said it in every one of these videos, but like I had such minimal effects to things. Even the chemotherapy didn't bother me as much as I think it could have. And so I feel so lucky in that regard. And so I do not want to sit here and complain. I see people when we go back to the hospital, and actually it's very difficult for me now to go back to the hospital. Actually, last time we were there, not this last time when I went by myself, but the time before that. So what a visit to the hospital looks like for me right now, I'll take a little tangent here. When we go to the hospital now, we park in the same place we always did, wherever we can find a spot, and we go down into the cancer center in Omaha at Nebraska, University of Nebraska Medical Center at the Buffett Cancer Center, and my mom will go sit off in the waiting area, and I will go into the fast track lab is what they call it. But it's just where you go, you get checked in real quick, and then they have your order for your labs there. And then you just sit in a waiting room with all the other people who are waiting to get their labs done, whether they have a PICC line in their arm like I did for over a year, or they have a port, or they just get it from their arm. All people sitting in there waiting to do their labs. And so we'll go in, I'll get checked in, and I love. One of the highlights of our time there is talking very briefly to the lady who's the receptionist. I love it. It's been the same lady almost the entire time, and she knew we were living at the hospital last year, and she kept track of us, and she would talk to me, and she is the most perfect person to be a receptionist. And I want to shout out to all the receptionists everywhere at hospitals, because it takes a certain type of person, because they're the people who get yelled at the most when appointments and things go wrong. And it happens like almost every time we're there. Someone comes and inevitably yells at someone because they had their time messed up. And I mean the person who's there thinking they have an appointment and they really don't, or it's in a different location of the hospital. And so the receptionists are the people that have to deal with that stuff. So shout out to the receptionists for being so awesome. But there's this one lady, I don't even know her name, and I'm terrible with names. I've mentioned it before in other videos. But she's this one lady who's there. She's very nice to me. She was since the day we started going. She's this one of the same. I haven't seen her every time. There are other people that work there, but I've seen her like probably 80% of the time when we go to this particular lab, and she is so wonderful every time. And so I really look forward to just seeing her and, just having a brief 2-minute conversation with her, how everything's going, and that's something that means a lot to the people there. And I know that for a fact. There are other receptionists that meant a lot to us as well. And so shout out to all the receptionists out there. It is a job that has like no glory to it whatsoever, but is very, very important in terms of dealing with morale at a hospital. Very important. So anyway, I would check in, and then I'd go sit down wherever, and then you wait for however long. Sometimes it can be up to 45 minutes just sitting in there waiting. Sometimes it's 5 minutes later they'll call you. The nurse will come out and call me. They when I had my PICC line before for so long, certain nurses would be able to do the PICC line stuff. So when I had the PICC line, they would call me, and they would come out and call my name, and I would go with that person to their room, and they would basically I'd sit, and they would get everything ready, and then they would just draw the blood from my PICC line. But only certain types of nurses could do that. And then they started, after I got my PICC line out, which again was while we were staying in the hospital, it switched over to different nurses, because I didn't need those special nurses anymore. Just a general nurse could do it, and just like an arm draw basically. And so for the first probably 4 or 5 or 6, maybe 4 months or so, we were doing it up until maybe April of this year. Actually, that's interesting. That might have been some sort of a switch or cutoff or something. But there were these 2 nurses who would take me into their room. It kind of alternated usually each time, and do my lab work. Sometimes, on occasion, a completely different nurse would take me to a different area where she would do it. And actually, you know what? None of this isn't super important, but I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, there was sort of like a change that happened there in terms of where they would take me and what they would do. But maybe it's the complexity of the labs they're pulling. I hadn't thought about that, but I think my labs are a little bit less. Before I would go in, and I would say take maybe 6 vials of blood. On certain days or certain times of every month, I would do maybe up to 8 to 10 vials, though that was when we would have a lot of blood that they would need, a lot of things they were testing for. And if you're unfamiliar with how that stuff works, they generally, before you go in, before they call your name, the nurse who's doing it will take and print out all of your labs that you need for that day, and they print out labels. And then what they do is they go through the drawers in their room, and they get the vials that they need for specific things. Each vial is a different color, and that represents where it's being sent to and what they're testing. And some of the vials are just blood in a vial, and that specific vial will be sent to this specific lab to be tested for this specific thing. Other vials have things in them already. So there is some sort of a culture or some sort of a bacteria or something inside of the vial. And then when they take your blood from your arm, they inject the blood into the vial, and it mixes with whatever chemicals or dust or, whatever's in there. And then that gets sent to a different lab, and then they test how the blood reacts to whatever was in the vial. And so I had, so many vials of blood taken from me over the last 3 years. I mean, more than the entirety of a person easily, I'm sure, multiple times over. But Nowadays, when I go in, it's just once a month, and they basically just pull like maybe 4 or 5 vials of blood, maybe even 3 or 4. And I believe they're mostly just regular vials. It depends what they're testing for that time. But then when you're done, they wrap your arm. Everybody probably is familiar with this. They put a piece of gauze on it. Sometimes I hold it myself. Sometimes they hold it. And then they wrap around your arm, and then you're good. You just can walk yourself out of the area. And so the reason I brought all of that up in the first place was to say that I've gone through this whole process, and it feels how it feels when you're going through it, mentally, physically, whatever. And when you first get diagnosed and you start going to the hospital, and it is the scariest place in the world, and you're thinking you're going to die, that day, and it's so intimidating and intense. And you're probably there with people, hopefully you're there with people who love you and care for you, and they are just as scared, if not more so than you. And then the more you do it, the more you go back, the more comfortable you get with the process, and the more comfortable you get with the people there. It doesn't seem scary. It's not intimidating. It is just a place, and you start to see it for what it is, and you become comfortable there. Well, once that happens to you and you become comfortable at the hospital, then you can loosen up a lot. And what I have noticed is that I now feel incredibly sad, and also I would say on certain levels guilty, and I'll get to that in a second, but I feel very sad when you sit in a waiting room and you look around at people and you can tell the people who are new there, the people who just got there maybe for the first time even that day. And it is very sad. Like, you just want to go and give people a hug and be like, hey, it's going to be fine. I've done this. I've done all of this. They have done things to me that they hopefully won't have to do to you. And it's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. And it's tough because you don't want to tell people that, because maybe sometimes it's not, but you always want to give people the hope that, that it's going to be fine. And I think most people are fine. I hope that's the case. And, this is a deep conversation, but like when I go sit in the waiting room now, I feel myself being like this last time I was there, not this last time when I was by myself, but the time before, I was just sitting there and I just had this overwhelming feeling. And I wouldn't say it was guilt exactly, but it was just looking around at the people who are there, almost all of whom are elderly people, older people, significantly older than me. Not everybody, but a majority of people are older, for sure, 60s and older. And I'm not saying 60, if you're 60, you're elderly. I'm just saying people who are older than me by a somewhat significant margin, and even way into like being into the 80s, 90s, maybe even. People who are in wheelchairs, people who do not look good. And you look around, and I just had this extreme feeling of like, I wish that I could give to these people what I have. I wish that I could take what has happened to me and how easy it felt and was for me and everything I had to go through, and just like take that and give it to the people who are going through it, or take away what they have to go through, because I know I can deal with it. And it happens to me now when I go sit in the waiting room and look around. I mean, I can sit there and not think about it or look at my phone, but like, part of me thinks that it's healthy and it's good to do that, because it grounds a person and it makes you realize what you yourself have gone through, which is something that is really hard for me. I went through this entire process without really thinking very deeply about any of it at all, and I just kind of let everything wash over me. And I've joked in previous videos here on the channel before, the other cancer videos, about how I think I'm really the archetype of the most perfect type of person to have cancer, because of all the reasons I've mentioned before. And now that I'm on the other side of everything, and as far as I know and can tell, everything's going fine. I have no cancer in me. And unless I get a different form of cancer, which is pretty highly likely from what I've understood from all the radiation stuff, unless something new comes along and happens, which then we'll have to deal with that, unless that happens, I'm perfectly fine, basically. And so seeing people sick and knowing what they have to go through, and how easy it was for me, but at the same time, how hard I know it is for other people. It is difficult to deal with that. And it's hard to deal with that. And it's hard to know how to interact with people. For example, just this last weekend, I went to church where I normally go to church, right, on Sunday. And I went to a small town near Prague called Morse Bluff, where I go there. It doesn't matter, but I go there to church sometimes. And there was a lady who I've seen their family at church there before, but her head was shaved and she had a bandana over her head, which is sort of like the universal symbol of I have cancer, And the whole time I was sitting there during church and I was thinking I should go talk to them after church is over. And just to see how it's going, because I felt good. It made me feel good when other people would talk to me about their situation. And when we were staying at the hospital, I learned that you can really impact a person's day by just being cheerful with them at a hospital, because so many people are not cheerful at a hospital, and it makes 1,000% sense, right? It makes perfect sense why someone would be at a hospital and not be cheerful. Either you're there to get treated or you're there to treat people. And if you're there to treat people, you're doing your job. And everybody knows that it sucks to have a job and you've got all your life's responsibilities and your job's responsibilities. And I don't begrudge anybody for treating their job like a job, no matter what it is, which is why I truly, truly appreciate the nurses and receptionists and doctors and people who do treat people with care and love and respect rather than just as a patient. But that's sort of neither here nor there, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. And so, but I was at church and I was thinking the whole time I should go talk to him after church. I've never talked to him before, and I'm not the type of person to hang around and just talk to people in a crowd or anything like after church. I'll shake the priest's hand or I'll avoid the priest altogether and just walk to my car and leave. And the whole time I was thinking I should talk to him, 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 the family, I should talk to this lady. And I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to him. And then church was over and they kind of sat in the pew a little extra longer. And I walked out of my pew, genuflected, turned around, walked right out of the church, and just kept walking to my car. And I was like, I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh, you wiener, you huge wiener. Come on, don't be such a loser. Go talk to these people. It would mean something to you, so you should do it. But then I was like, well, it's not my place. Who am I? They don't know me. It doesn't, and so I was kind of kicking myself, but like, whatever. Okay, I got to go home. So I got to my car and I opened the door and I was leaned in and I was moving some stuff around to trying to find my phone. And I stood back up and they had parked in the car right next to me. And I looked up and the lady was walking literally she couldn't open her car door because mine was open. And so I was like, okay, this is a sign. So I said, I noticed the bandana. Is it because of chemo in your hair? Is it because of chemo? And she said yes. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and they caught it early. And so they had very high hopes for her that everything would be fine. And so I stood there and I talked to her for maybe like 5 minutes. And the second I started telling her that I had leukemia and all this stuff, you can just see the person's face be like, aha, this is a person that can understand. This is reassurance, and her husband was on the other side of the car. He was going to get in the driver's seat. And once I said leukemia, he said, oh, really? And was invested in the conversation and happy that I was talking to her. And it's little things like that, which can seem like such a small thing. And I don't know if it meant anything to them at all. It meant something to me on a courage level of being able to even talk to them, which is so stupid. Come on, just talk to people, but that's how I am. And that's fine. But, well, here I am talking to a bunch of people, but there's no face in front of me, right? You're just a number or a person, you're not a person. You're just a potential for a people. But anyway, I felt really good doing that. And I could tell I gave her my card that I had printed earlier this year. I had some cards printed with my YouTube channel and my Bandcamp channel on it. And so I gave her my card and I said, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. I have a cancer video playlist, and maybe you can give them. We can watch them and see, and see if they're interesting to you. I said I talk about my journey and everything, and so I'm someone that lives within a 20-mile radius of them, I'm sure. So I gave her my card, and she took it, and she was so nice, and she seemed very hopeful, and her husband seemed hopeful as well. She was probably only, I would say, maybe she could have even been the same age as me. I don't know. Maybe a little older, but I don't know. I'm very bad judge of people's ages. It's impossible to tell how old anybody is. But they had a daughter that seemed like they were probably, the daughter was probably, I think, graduating from high school, maybe getting ready to go to college. So she could have been my age. She could have even been younger than me. So, but I don't know. So anyway, that's sort of. Then, okay, so I was in the middle of talking about what happens when we go to the doctor now. So we do the labs, then we go wait upstairs in the waiting room for seeing the doctor. And when we see the doctor, you get let in by a person, they take your weight and they do your blood pressure, which I've had high blood pressure the last few times, but no one seems very worried about it, so we're just kind of ignoring that for now. And we then get put in the room. You have to wait there for a while. Doctor comes in and he just asks the same questions every time. One of the common symptoms from my type of transplant is pain in joints and joint swelling. And it's a problem I have had throughout my life, having gout in my feet and my knees and my elbows, which I haven't had any problem with that since any of this started because I just take tons of medications. But I have to make sure, he has to check that I have full range of motion of my arms. So like I have to put my hands together like this and hold them like this. And I have to be able to like stretch my arms out, move them out like this, back in, and just make sure that I have like full range of motion. He looks at my feet, has me move my ankles around and my wiggle my toes and everything. I just leave my shoes on the whole time. But, move my feet around and everything. And that... and then we just talk. We just talk about, everything, in what's happening in his life, what's happening in our lives. We go over medications, make sure if I need any new prescriptions for anything that are running out or whatever. He brings up anything that I've ever complained about over this last year or so. Like he's like, well, do you have any rash now or anything like that? Let me look in your mouth and see your mouth, go do the ah thing, look in the back of the throat and, look in the eyes, ask about vision. Have you have any problems with vision or anything like that? So it's kind of like a normal checkup, really, but it's based on things that I have complained about throughout this whole process that maybe bothered me at one time or another. And then other things that are just common symptoms or common conditions that can occur because of the transplant. And every time, nothing's really bothering me. Maybe we'll bring up a thing here or there. Like, for example, after we came home from the hospital, around Christmas time, we had fish. We don't eat fish in my house very often. We don't eat seafood very often. But my folks bought a package of fish somewhere, and we had half of the package of fish. My mom cooked half the package, and then she froze the other half. And so we ate the fish, and I got super, super sick when the day we ate this fish. And I felt so sick. I mean, it's hard to even explain, but it was like a very like sick to the core of your stomach and then up into your chest almost too. Very nauseated and stomach ache and bad. And so I had to get up multiple times throughout the night, go to the restroom multiple times. And we ate it for supper in the evening meal around like 7. And so then for the next like 6 to 7 hours after I ate it, I would say I felt pretty sick. And I actually did get to the point where I puked. And I am very good at not puking. I have not puked very much at all throughout this whole process, a couple times here or there. But my whole life, I can hold in a puke pretty easy. But I puked and I felt so much better. And I was like, okay, well, there's that. Well, so cut to a month or so later, and we made the rest of that package of fish. And it didn't occur to us at the time, but it was the next time we ate fish, and I got very sick again and had to go puke again. And so it was weird and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm like allergic to fish now. And so we went into the doctor that time. It was right around the time we were going to go see the doctor for our monthly appointment, or our bi-weekly appointment, I think it was at that point. And we asked the doctor, and he actually confirmed for me one of my things that I had been wondering was, since I have a new person's immune system inside of my system, and my immune system is new, it's not very common, but it is possible for a person who's had the type of transplant I've had to actually become allergic to things that the person who donated to me, the donor, things that they were allergic to, I can now become allergic to. And that's pretty crazy to think about. But so we brought it up at the time, and the doctor was like, the only thing you can really do is try to just slowly eat little seafood things here or there and see. Well, so since then, over the ensuing months, we've had fish multiple times, different types of fish. I'm sure that same type of fish. I don't know what it was, if it was tilapia or something. I've had shrimp. I've had all other stuff. We went on vacation. I had crab, I think, once by this ocean, and like none of it bothered me. So I don't think I have any sort of allergy to seafood or fish or anything like that. It was just a very freak accident. Neither of my folks got sick when they ate it. So for some reason, something must have happened, whether it was a parasite or in the fish or something that messed with my system. That particular package of food made me sick both times, but it didn't affect my folks, either of them at all. And it was just a weird situation. And so a person who has had a healthy life and not gone through what I've gone through, you might just think that you had a stomach ache. But now, because of what I've gone through and the post-transplant stuff I've been told, if something kind of funny happens to me, I'm aware of those things more, and I always try to bring them up because I'm supposed to bring them up, because they don't necessarily think that everything is GVHD, but almost anything could be GVHD or allergies or something that could turn into something serious. So I've always been instructed through this whole process to let my team, my doctors, my case manager know if something sort of odd or strange happens to me, and they will monitor it. Usually it's all just about monitoring, making sure things don't get worse. And if it does start to get worse at all, then you go into the hospital and they test you for whatever it is. And so thankfully nothing has happened that we've needed to worry about this whole time. But something like that can happen within the first 2 years. And that's why I mentioned the 2-year milestone coming up next April. In April of 2027 will be my 2-year milestone. And generally what they see with patients who've had the type of transplant I've had, the bone marrow transplant, if you don't develop any symptoms within the first 2 years or any conditions within the first 2 years or any complications, generally at that point, that means you are probably in the clear for GVHD. You probably will not develop any more symptoms. Now, it's possible at any point for the rest of my life I could develop some kind of a symptom, but that is highly unlikely. If it's something is going to happen, it will happen within the first 2 years. So once we reach April of next year, which is probably when I'll do the next update for this, once we get to that point, I will basically be in the clear for GVHD. Now, something else to mention is that because of all the radiation, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, because of all the radiation I was given and all of the chemotherapy and treatment I was given before the transplant, it is actually very likely that I will develop some other form of cancer that could be anywhere. It could be any other form of cancer. It could be something small. It could be bad. It could be another form of cancer because of all the radiation stuff. And they told me about all these risks. They have to tell you all these things before they do anything to you. But this is all before the transplant. We learned all of this information. But basically, there's just a significantly higher success rate with the transplant working if they include the radiation therapy in it. Because the whole point is to knock your immune system down as much as possible. The less of your own immune system you have in your system, the more of a chance that the new immune system they give you will take over your system without having to fight your own immune system inside of your body. And so I think I am grateful that they did what they did for me, but they have told me multiple times that it is likely. I think it's a much higher percent chance. I think it's like 30 to 40% chance I will develop some other type of cancer over the next 6 to 7 years, I believe is what it is. So I have to be on the lookout for that kind of a thing. but nothing's happened so far, and hopefully it won't. Probably won't. But there you go. Along those same notes, another sort of side effect thing is that my skin is sensitive to sunlight way more than it ever was before, because as I mentioned already now in this video, I would never wear anything. I would never cover up like this. I would never in my life have ever worn like a long sleeve shirt like this over a shirt, especially being like a heavier person. You don't want to layer too many clothes because it just makes you look even bigger. But my doctors have said, and my dermatologist said, and everyone has said that basically for the rest of my life, I am going to be at a much higher risk for getting the more easily, like skin cancer could happen to me much, much, much easier than it could to the average person. So like my dad will spend every day outside in the sun for basically his entire life. His skin is basically black like leather. And he has had cancer spots removed from him. But for me, it'd be much easier for me to get some sort of a cancer spot on my skin somewhere and to have it cause more problems than it would for the average person. So I have to be very careful with being out in the sun, which is fine, but it's not something I would have thought about that much before. So for the last 2 years, and I've known about this since I was diagnosed, but basically after the transplant, it's much more apparent. They really drill it into you to not be out in the sun very much, and also to try to limit your exposure to animals, which is kind of funny because I live on a farm. But anyway, so I have been wearing shirts like this when I go out. I have like about 5 or 6 of them that I kind of rotate through, whether we're working on something on the farm or we're just going out to garage sales, or anytime the sun's out, I wear stuff like this. And I also have a big brimmed hat that goes around my head that I bought a long time ago. It's like kind of like a fishing hat, and it also has like you can open the back and like kind of pull out this, like unfold this kind of like fabric that goes back and would like protect my neck more. So I wear that out a lot. But I have different hats and things that I wear to just try to keep the sun out of my face and off my head, because I have chosen since the transplant to not allow my hair to grow back. It does grow, and you can see that you can see where it's growing here. You can see that it's growing here. I just shaved it a couple of days ago. But I keep shaving my head because I think it looks way better like this than I ever did before with my balding head. But if supposedly, my dermatologist told me once when we were in the hospital that they are on track to solve male pattern baldness and to basically cure baldness within the next 5 years or so. And she told me that a year ago. So within the next 4 to 5 to 7 years, baldness is a thing that could potentially be solved. And so if that ever becomes the case, you can look for my luscious locks on the channel, because I've always my entire life wanted to have a full head of hair. And it wasn't since I was probably 14 or so that I actually did have a head of hair. But so I'm intentionally choosing to keep my hair like this. And for the last year or so, only until the last 2 months, I would say, maybe last month and a half, I have been shaving my arms. You can see it on all the videos on my channel here. But I've been shaving my arms because it's just much simpler to go into the hospital if you have an IV and to have them, they put the needle in, the crook of your arm is where I always do it because it's easier for them to find the vein there. But, so what I've been doing since July of last year, since my hair started to grow back after we left the hospital, I have been shaving my arms from my whole hand and everywhere all the way up to here. Now, that's also partly a psychological thing for me, because the thing that I hate about myself the most is my outrageously hairy body. I can't stand it. I hate it. It was a problem for me when I was a kid. I didn't want to go to the swimming pool because I was so hairy and gross. And I still think I'm hairy and gross, but I just don't care about it anymore. But anyway, I've been shaving my arms. So it's only just now, this is the longest my arm hair has been over the last 2 years, I guess. The last year, basically, since my transplant, because that was when all my hair fell out and everything with the radiation therapy. But so that's one thing that's interesting and different, and I kind of hate. But I'm choosing to keep my head like this, and I think it looks nice. And my facial hair grows in just like normal. I will say after the whole process happened, if you watch videos on my channel here from just like 2 years ago, most of my hair, my facial hair is dark, like my mustache here, and even darker than this. And my eyebrows as well. But my eyebrows have lightened considerably, and you can see on my face here, all of this hair is white. Almost all of my hair is white. Over here, you can see that it's a little darker up here. And over here, you can see, I hate it, there's this like stretch right here that's a little darker, but everything else is like whiter. And so and now who knows, that could just be age, right? I'm going to be 40 years old. So for people who are 40 look like me, they probably have more grays than blacks anyway. But it really, I think the process of going through this treatment and everything really accelerated my gray hairs. And before I was diagnosed, my hair would be somewhat gray on my facial hair, and I would dye it I had dyed it a few times before that, like when I had my cousin's wedding. And that was one of the first times I was very, 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 very sick. One of the first times I got physically sick due to my symptoms, I believe. That was in October or November of 2023. So that would be like 3 months before I was diagnosed with cancer. So I think I had it at that point, but something had been bothering me. But anyway, that was the last time I dyed. No, I think I did dye my facial hair once last year when we got home. I think you can, whatever. It doesn't matter. But grayer hair, that's definitely something that has happened to me, and I do believe is a symptom of that. So that's kind of all the things that have been going on with me, physically, mentally, I guess. Not everything that's been going on, but, that's kind of what's been happening in terms of how I've been feeling. So that's the first part of this video. Now, as you know, I always treat these videos as two things. One, to let you guys and anybody who cares know how I'm feeling. So that's what we just did. Now, the other part of the video is always me going through stories and things that have happened, dealing with all of this. So it's kind of like a time capsule, and I'm allowed to remember in the future what happened. And so I have this list of things here that I wanted to just mention real quick. And the first thing that I have to talk about is something that I have mentioned in the last 2 or 3 of these videos. The last video. And I mentioned that we were going to talk about it, and then I didn't. The last 2, because I filmed one in the hospital and then one in the hotel attached to the hospital where we were living. So the last 2 cancer videos, I've teased this story, but I'm going to actually tell it this time. So one of the things I haven't really mentioned that much is that when we went into the hospital, well, actually, before we went into the hospital last year to do the transplant. So we're talking, my transplant was April 4th of 2025. We had to go into the hospital on March 27th, I believe. So like a week or so before that. Well, about a month or so before that, maybe even 2 months before that, I got this little dot of something somewhere. Where was it? It was up here on my arm somewhere. I got a little like sore looking dot, and I covered it with a bandage, and it slowly went away. Well, then like a couple weeks later, another one happened, and I just covered it and it slowly went away. And before we went into the hospital, I started to get another one. And what it turned out being was staph infection. And so when we went into the hospital, I had staph infection underneath here, kind of. Underneath here. Underneath my armpit. Not in my armpit, but under here. And without going too into like the terrible, gross details of it, when we were taken into the hospital on March 27th, the first thing they start doing is giving you chemotherapy and medication to lower your immune system, right? The whole point of it for the week or so before your transplant is to lower your immune system, all of your numbers, your white blood cell numbers, your platelet numbers, everything, so that your immune system is as little as possible, basically. So what ended up happening was the staph infection that I had got worse when we were in the hospital, and it spread around down here, down onto 2 parts of my thigh, on my sort of the top part of my top thigh back here, kind of on my butt, kind of a little bit, and then up onto this arm. So it was like this whole huge area from down here up onto my armpit, and then up into this area. Now, that's bad for several reasons. One, I had no immune system, so my body could not fight it off. 2, this is the arm that I had my PICC line in, and my PICC line was right here. I can feel right there is where my PICC line was. And we're talking like within inches of my PICC line. So what happened was we got into the hospital and they started getting rid of my immune system, and this started slowly spreading, and we didn't know what it was. And so my doctor said, we're going to have the dermatology department come and see you, the dermatologist. And so at this point at Buffett Cancer Center in Omaha, where you're staying for pre-transplant, pre-treatment stuff like that, is on the 7th floor, which is where we had stayed several times throughout the previous year and a half when things were really bad. We'd have to go stay at the hospital, and we'd stay on the 7th floor. And when I was first admitted, we had to stay on the 7th floor for 13 days. And it felt like a long time. Then we were there for 103 days, but not on the 7th floor. That was in the hotel in a different building. But when you're on the 7th floor, it means you have people checking on you constantly. You are in your own room, your own hospital room, and it is a hospital room, not a hotel room. It's a hospital room. And that's where we were for the transplant. You can see videos and footage of it and everything in the previous videos I've done. So the doctor, every day when you're there, the doctors every morning and every evening, they make a round. Whatever doctor's on call that day, whatever oncologist is on call, they make the rounds. They go through the whole room and the whole hospital, the whole 7th floor, and they see every cancer patient there. And so my doctor would do it. Sometimes other doctors would do it. My doctor came in, saw what was going on, said, we're going to make the dermatologist come see you. So we had to wait like 2 or 3 days, in which case it was getting worse. And then the dermatologist came to see me. And the day she came to see me was the first day that I was getting radiation therapy. So she comes up to see me, and I had been taken down to the radiation therapy before this to make sure everything was ready for them to measure me, to do all these different things. So I had been down there before. And so when you're doing something like this, they don't allow you to walk. You have to be taken in a wheelchair. Thankfully, I didn't have to be on a gurney, but thankfully, just in a wheelchair, taken down to the radiation center, right? So I think my radiation was scheduled for noon, and the dermatologist was supposed to be there sometime in the morning. Well, she didn't get there until about 11:30. So she got there and she was working on someone else's room, but they knew I had a radiation appointment at noon. So she sent one of her people who were with her, one of the doctors who was with her as sort of like an underling or an understudy, to my room. And so he was looking, he was checking everything, and they decided what they needed to do was do a skin graft, a skin biopsy of the area to take some of it out, right? And so in what was definitely one of the most funny moments of this entire thing that's happened to me, my entire cancer journey, it was me and my mom in the hospital room with my nurse for that day and an additional nurse. And they were there just because there was something going on, and someone needed to be in there, I guess, from the 7th floor. So they were there, and then the guy from the dermatologist, but not the dermatologist, doctor, whose name was Amy Wong, I believe her name was. And she was one of my favorite doctors I encountered, one of my favorite people I encountered the entire time. And I have another extra little story I'll tell about her in a second. But another dermatologist, I'll just say her helper. I'll just call him her helper. So her helper was there, and he was like basically prepping my arm for it was an actual procedure, probably something that maybe would have even been considered a surgery. I'm not sure. I don't think so though, because I've done biopsies before, skin biopsies where they can just do them in the nurses do them on what do they call it? The center where you go to get stuff done in every hospital. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, I was sitting like this. My mom's over there. We have two nurses standing kind of in the doorway, and then this helper for the dermatologist. And so he's getting everything ready, and he's like, okay, well, we'll probably take a sample from like right around down here, which doesn't matter, but we'll just say that there was a spot here. So he's like, we'll take a sample of that spot. And I said, okay. So he was like prepping me, kind of getting ready to do it. And so right as he was about to do it, there's a knock on the door. And it's just this lady who works for the hospital. And if you're familiar with hospitals and how they work, this hospital is attached to the College of Nursing, the University of Nebraska Medical Center College of Nursing. And so it was someone who was just a college student whose job at the hospital is to wheel people around in a wheelchair wherever they need to go. So it was just some innocent young girl there with a wheelchair to take me to radiation. And so we're like, okay, can you just wait? And she goes, sure. So she pulls the wheelchair off to the side and is standing in the room. Now, when I think back on this now, we probably should have asked her to leave, but she was just standing in the room. So that's another person in the room. Well, right as the guy was about to take the sample, the actual dermatologist, her name is Dr. Amy Wong, I believe, came in and said, oh, let me do it. I'll do it faster. And so she came in, and this is how, when doctors are doing rounds, they have like 3 or 4 or 5 people with them sometimes. Nurses, understudies, students that are just observing for the day. So she comes in and she has 3 people with her. So in this tiny hospital room, there is my mom, there's me, my mom, the dermatologist helper, the dermatologist herself, Dr. Amy, and then her 2 assistants and a college student. There is a lady waiting for me to be with a wheelchair. And then there's my 2 nurses, who are my 2 nurses for the day. And so the lady just goes, let me do it. So she grabs the thing, does 3, he'd already given me lidocaine, so that's how close he was to doing it. He'd already like numbed the area. So she like, can you feel this? I said, no. She takes a sample. She's like, can you feel this? I said, no. She takes another sample. She said, can you feel this? I said, no. She takes another sample. She took 3 samples from like right here, up here, and then down a little further, and from 3 spots that I had. And so she was like, okay, we're going to take those 3 samples. And then what she did was she sewed up each of the places. She like sewed it with sutures. And after the fact, and we got back and everyone was gone, and the nurse, my 2 nurses came back, they both confirmed that they had never seen anyone in their lives do stitches that fast. They were like, she was like a miracle worker with the stitches. So they were very impressed with how fast she stitched all 3 of the holes up. So she stitched the holes up, and then they slapped bandages on me, said, lower your arm, don't move your arm, okay, go. So then the lady, who's just some random college student with a wheelchair, is like, so this whole process, it was hilarious. We were all laughing the whole time because there was 9 people in my tiny, tiny room, and no one at any point thought to leave or kick anybody out. And we were just laughing hysterically the whole time because of how ridiculous this situation was. And I didn't have a shirt on the whole time, which as a fat person, you don't necessarily want to be shirtless ever. But by that point, I'd been in the hospital so much, had so much stuff done to me, didn't give a crap anymore, about stuff like that. But it was still funny to have so many different strangers in the room at once. You can go for hours without seeing anybody, and then all of a sudden there's 7 extra people in the room. So I had the bandage on my arm, put my arm down, sat in the wheelchair. She wheeled me down, and I got my first dose of radiation, and then wheeled me back up. And it was a crazy hilarious experience that I can still to this right now, I can sit here and picture where I was sitting. I can picture where everyone was sitting. It's a very vivid memory for me, which a lot of my memories from throughout the last couple of years are not vivid for me. It's hard for me to remember a lot of things. But that was something that happened that my mom and I still laugh about. And then the few times after that that we got to see the dermatologist, Dr. Amy, again, she would joke about that every time I saw her, which I think I got to see her 3 times after that. And she was always one of the most pleasant, wonderful people that I had the privilege to work with. And she was very thoughtful. And after that experience, like a week later, when we were still there on the 7th floor, they were wheeling me down. They were wheeling me somewhere else in the hospital to get some other test done. And she was walking down the hallway. Now, this is last year, but everyone on the 7th floor, all people are required to wear masks. So she had a mask on the entire time. I had a mask on, but this was like a week later after that. That was the first time I'd ever met Dr. Amy. They were wheeling me down the hospital to go somewhere else for some other appointment. And she was walking down the hallway, and me with my mask, she recognized me and said, "Hey, I know you," in a really friendly manner, and stopped the person who was wheeling me wherever I was supposed to go and talked to me for just like a couple of minutes, asking how I was doing and how radiation therapy and everything was going. And I think this was after I'd had the transplant, so she was asking about how the transplant went. And that meant so much to me for her to just recognize me from my eyes, seeing me with the mask on. I didn't have the mask on when we were in my room. Or actually, I think they made me put the mask on when they were going to do the thing. So, but it's still, the point stands that she recognized who I was, and that meant a lot to me. And then later, months and months later, we actually got to go see her at her office, and she was so wonderful and so nice. And then I got to see her one more time after that, and I'll explain that story in a second. So that's sort of the big story I wanted to mention, because it was something that was fun and something that I sort of teased that story in the last 2 cancer update videos, but I didn't really go too deep into. So on my list here, I have a couple of other things I just want to mention. So over the last year, we've only had one medical thing happen that was somewhat scary. And that was in October of last year. This whole time I've had problems with my spleen. Not really problems, but my spleen was very enlarged when I was diagnosed in beginning of 2024. It was very, very enlarged. And so they've been keeping an eye on my spleen and my liver the whole time, as they do keep an eye on all your numbers. But my liver numbers were a little bit weird. And so they were like, well, we're going to have you go see a liver doctor. So I went to go see a liver doctor, and I forget what that part of the hospital is called. This might be wrong, but I want to say it's like endocrinology or something like that. So we went to this new department in the hospital, and we did a test. And the doctor we had did not speak super good English, which is fine, but it was kind of hard to understand what he was saying. But he was saying basically, okay, we're going to do this test that is sort of like an ultrasound, but it's the first time I'm ever going to be administering this test, so I'm going to do it myself. And I was like, he was like, is that okay? I said, sure. So he had a nurse with him at the time, and this was my first time meeting this doctor. And so basically what I had to do was lift my shirt up, and then they took this like machine, like a little electronic looking device, and they put it up against my skin, and then he would push a button, and it would basically kind of like punch my skin a little bit. And it was literally just like this. Like it wasn't it didn't hurt, nothing like that. It was just like a little poop. And so he did it once, and every time he did it, it would take like a picture. And so he was like, oh, it works like this. And he had a nurse with him who was a lady who'd done that before many times, and she was kind of teaching him how to do it. And so he was standing there doing it, and he took like 12 photos, and he just kept going boof, boof, boof. And he was like, oh, this is really cool how this works. So he's like, I just do this, push the button, it would go poof, poof. And again, it doesn't hurt, nothing. But he just kept doing it. And I was like, I wonder if this is how it's supposed to work or not. And she was like, we usually only do it once or twice. He was like, oh, sorry. So we were all laughing and joking around like we do with all the people at the hospital. And so he said, okay, well, we're going to go take a look at these pictures and see. So he left. And we sat in the room for a half hour. And then the door opens, and a much more serious doctor came in who spoke fluent English, and he sat down and was like, okay, here's the situation. And so without going into everything he said, basically he was explaining to me what cirrhosis of the liver is and the different stages of cirrhosis. Like one being you see something's wrong with your liver, we need to monitor this. And then stage 3 cirrhosis being like you could die because of your liver. Just stage 3 cirrhosis is like the worst kind. And so he was saying, basically, from what this test looks like, it looks like you might have between stage 2 and stage 3 of cirrhosis of the liver. And I had a fatty liver. And he was like, I was like, it was very doom and gloom. And we were like upset about it. And so he was like, we have to do a liver biopsy. And I was like, okay, how does that work? He said, well, there's different ways to do it. We can go in through your side and take a sample of your liver that way. Or the way we're going to do it, the way we want to do it is they actually go in through the veins in your neck. So for me, they went over here. You're right there. This guy, that guy. I think you can maybe even see the mark. Yeah, right here. You can see right here. He said what they're going to do is they're going to go in through the vein in your neck, and they're going to go all the way down your body, and it goes right into your liver. So we're going to go right into your liver, and we're going to take a sample of it and pull it back out. And I was like, okay, whatever you guys need to do. So that was scheduled like 2 weeks later. So we go in for that. All doom and gloom for like 2 weeks. We're pretty depressed. We're like, this was for nothing. I'm going to die of this liver thing, you know? And so we go in and we do the test. And it was a very interesting procedure. The people who worked with me were really great. I got there, they wheeled me down way early and the doctor was still at lunch. And so I was just sitting there laying on the gurney on the bed, talking to the two nurses about music and my YouTube channel and all these different things. And they were really cool. And the one nurse was very much a sarcastic style of like humor, like a dark humor, which I really resonate with. So her and I were having fun talking and joking around. And then the doctor came in and he had been eating like Indian food or something. And so they were like, you need to go brush it. Everyone was making fun of each other. It was really fun. And they were trying to I think I was the last person they had that day. And so he was saying we're going to do it in like record time so we can all go home. And so we were just joking around about stuff. And so they put me out completely during the procedure and I woke up and everything was done. And it was not a bad procedure. You know, I was partially awake for it, but then I know I fell asleep and don't remember them actually doing it. But so then we went home and we worried for another 2 weeks about the results. And then that first doctor who I'd seen, who didn't speak English very well, he called and he called me himself. And I was like, oh boy. So he basically called and he said, we looked at the results and basically your liver is fine. It's fatty. You have a fatty liver, but that's not uncommon. And that could just be because you lost and gained so much weight. Lost weight, gained weight, lost weight again. Your body doesn't know how to react to that. So your liver's been having to work extra hard and pressure in your valves or your pressure coming from your liver to your heart, things like that, is a little bit funky. And so we want to just monitor that. But basically, you're fine. You do not have cirrhosis. All the stuff we were talking to you about is fine. You don't have to worry about it. And I was like, whew. So he was like, I just wanted to let you know, and hung up the phone. And then like 10 minutes later, he called back and said, I just want to make sure you understand. I was like, yeah, as long as I'm fine, that's fine. He goes, we're going to have to schedule a follow-up appointment with you. It will be in February. And I was like, okay. So we set up an appointment in February to go back in. And he was like, okay, you're good. And I was like, yep. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. As long as I'm fine, I'll come in for any tests you guys need me to do. And he was like, okay. And then like 3 hours later, he called back again. And we were like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And he's like, I just want to make sure that you understand what was going on and that we have a follow-up appointment with you. And I was like, yeah, as far as I understand, I have it. It's in my schedule, right? And he goes, yep. And I go, okay, well, I'll check it and we'll be there for it. And he goes, okay. So I don't know what was going on with him or why he had to call multiple times, but he must have been worried that I wasn't following what was going on. So anyway, that was a fun situation. Not fun, actually. It was very nerve-wracking. But we it was a crazy situation, and that whole process of doing the liver biopsy was an interesting thing because it's a pretty complicated thing, and then for days afterwards you feel kind of like it's weird to have something go down inside you, and it's just a weird thing. So that's one interesting thing that happened. And then we got to Christmas, and for Christmas I knew I wanted to get some Christmas presents for my doctors and for the people that we work with at the hospital, because at that point we were starting to go a little less, and I was starting to already feel like, oh, this part of my life is different now than it has been for the last year and a half. Where we were going in multiple times a week, now we're going in like only every 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks, and we're seeing these people less often, and they're less a part of our lives. And so I thought I want to get presents for everybody. We didn't do that the year before. So my plan was to buy, I had the idea from talking to all these people throughout the years, the last couple of years, you get to know people, you get to learn what they like and what they don't like. And they all knew that I like to go to Goodwill, that I like antiques, that I like things like that. And so I had made the decision that I wanted to search for old, like antique medical books that would be like medical stories from a doctor or interesting pictures or something like that. Like historic medical books, like old antique medical books of some kind, not some kind of a book that they would have had to read in college or some like how to this or anything like that. So and I decided that pretty early on. So for October, November, and all of December, every time we would go in, we would go look at different thrift stores, Goodwills, bookstores, places, wherever we happened to be, we would be looking, and I would look through all the books to try to find. And so I ended up finding a few interesting books for some of the people who were most closest to me at the hospital. And so I have a list here of people who I bought presents for. So I bought presents for my doctor, Dr. Haddadden. I bought a present for Dr. Hunter, my case manager, Lauren, my old case manager, Melanie, one of the receptionists at the Bellevue Hospital that we used to go to, but that I couldn't go to anymore after the transplant for insurance purposes, Dee Dee, the receptionist there, one of the nurses there who was very, very kind to us. All the nurses there were great, but one nurse in particular was amazing, named Anna. I wanted to buy a Christmas present for her. And then I also wanted to buy a Christmas present for one of the doctors we had seen a lot the first year I was diagnosed. Her name is Dr. Catherine Bayer. And so I wanted to get presents for those people. And so for my main doctor, my doctor, I found this awesome big coffee table book that kind of resembled like a Norman Rockwell book, but it was a different artist, and it was like all medical cartoons that he had drawn, and they were on white pages of paper with like a character or something on it, printed very well, very high quality. It was from, I think, the 70s. And it was a big coffee table book, hardback, and it was awesome. And I am so mad that I did not take pictures of these things so that I could talk about them in a video in the future and show them, but I just wasn't thinking of it at the time. So I didn't take pictures or videos of them, but I gave him that plus something else and some candy and, whatever. But again, my goal was to buy books for everybody. So I bought him that. I bought for Dr. Angela, who's the doctor I've seen the most throughout this whole process, other than Dr. Haddadden. I bought a actual Norman Rockwell, a medical book that had a picture by Norman Rockwell on the front of the very famous picture of the kid with his pants down, going to get a shot in the butt. Everybody's seen that picture before. I bought her a book that had that on the cover of it, and it was like medical, some stories or something from, I think, the 60s. And I managed to find at a completely different location, like a 12 by 15 print of that Norman Rockwell picture itself. So I gave her the book and then the picture with it on there, along with some candy. And so that was a good present. And then I was having trouble finding presents for everybody else. And so I had in my mind this idea. And I've done this throughout my life. If I find extra copies of things that I really love, I buy extra copies to someday gift to people, but I've never done it before. So I was like, now's the time. So I took, for the other people that I mentioned, I either gave them a copy of 3 of the most important books in my life, being either the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I gave 2 people copies of that I had. And then I gave 2 people copies of The Secret Garden, which I think I've mentioned before. I have a whole series of Secret Garden books up here on the top. Up here, I collect Secret Garden books. The Secret Garden is one of my favorite, all-time favorite books, one of my favorite things. I absolutely love The Secret Garden. And so I gave 2 people two of my copies of The Secret Garden. And then I gave one person a copy of my favorite book of all time, The Devil in the White City, which is the story about the 1893 Chicago World's Fair and H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. It's my favorite book of all time, especially my favorite nonfiction book, but I think it's the best book I've ever read. And so I gave these people these books. And what I did was I took a piece of paper and I cut out long strips of paper, and then I wrote personal messages to everybody saying, like, thank you so much for everything you've done for me, little personal messages to them. And I folded them up and I slid them in between the pages of these books towards the end of them, so that if they ever read those books and they get to a page towards the end of the book, they'll open it and see a little message from me. Hello, everybody. I just have to insert myself into the video here just for 1 second, because as I was editing, I realized I forgot to mention a few things that I did give a few of these people at the hospital presents, like a few things that I gave them. But I wanted to mention that for my doctor, Dr. Haddadden, along with the book that I gave him, I also gave him a copy of the soundtrack to the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou on CD. And that is because my doctor is from the country Jordan, and he's been living in the United States now for many years, not a ton, but for at least 10 years, I believe. But he's not super familiar with all of our, like we talk about farming a lot and things like that, because he's more of a city person. He doesn't know that much about just farming country life, at least here in Nebraska, in the middle of the USA where we live. And so we talked to him about things like that. And I've talked to him about music and things a lot before, because he knows I have this YouTube channel. And so I thought it would be fun to give him a representation, a CD that is a good representation of, even though I have no idea if he has any way of playing a CD, probably not. But I thought it'd be fun to give him some old-timey Americana style music. And I thought the best way to do that would be to give him a copy of one of the most influential albums in my life, which is the soundtrack to the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So I gave that to him, as well as the book and some candy and stuff. So I wanted to mention that. And then I also wanted to mention that some of the other people whose names I read out on that list that I bought presents for, I also gave a few of them some of the extra copies that I had laying around of the first Harry Potter book. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And if you're watching this, you're unfamiliar with my connection to Harry Potter. I'll talk about it a little bit later in the video as well, but Harry Potter is a very important thing to me, and I have been working on a Harry Potter podcast for quite a long time, and that just ended actually this year. But I'll talk about that later in this video. But because Harry Potter is so important to me, it's something that I brought up to a lot of these people as I'm just talking to them about my life in general and whatnot when I'm at the hospital. And a couple of them had told me that they had not read the Harry Potter books, which is not super uncommon, but it's also really popular series. So a couple of those people that I had remembered hadn't read the books. I gave them some of my extra copies that I just had laying around of the first Harry Potter book on paperback. And 2 of those people got back to me later when we went to visit and said that they were excited to get it and that they just put it out on their coffee table and they were going to try to read it sometime, in the near future. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I wanted to mention that. But anyway, back into the video and keep going. I just had to, like I said, pop myself in here as I was editing. I realized I forgot that and I wanted to include it. And I just have to really quickly mention the day that we took the presents to we also bought tons of candy to give bowls of candy to the nurses. So the day we went to the hospital for my appointment was around Christmas Day. I think it was like in the December 22nd or something, maybe. We went in, and so I knew I wanted to give everybody my Christmas presents, and we were scheduled to actually see a different doctor, one that I've seen a couple times, but not someone that I deemed worthy of a Christmas present. But she couldn't see me that day, so I actually got to see Dr. Angela, who is someone we hadn't seen for a while since the transplant, but I'd seen her so much before that. And so I was so grateful we got to see her instead, and so I got to give her present, and she almost cried. It meant so much to her. She was saying that she doesn't get very many presents throughout the from her family. I don't know why, but she said this was like one of the only presents she was going to get, and that nobody thinks of giving the doctors Christmas presents or anything. Like, people will sometimes give candy or something, and I think any of that stuff is great. But she was just very grateful and very happy, and she loved the Norman Rockwell picture and the book, and she was so happy. And so I gave her all the presents for everybody else, and she knew where to take them and who to give them to. So she took all of them, and she was very, 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 very happy. So then we went up to the 7th floor where we hadn't been for months and months, but where we'd spent so much time at. And we went up there, and when we were in the hospital on the 7th floor, there were 2 nurses in particular that really stood out to me and meant a lot to me. One of them was a guy whose name I can't think of right now because I'm terrible with names. And the other one was a lady named Rosie, or Rosalita. Rosie. I think it was Rosie. Or Rose. I apologize if her name's wrong, but it doesn't matter. And she was just learning at the time. She was ghosting basically this other guy, and I'm so mad I can't think of his name. I want to say it was, I can't remember what his name was. Shoot, I can picture him so clearly. But anyway, he was great, and then she was being his learning from him, observing him that week, but the whole time I was there basically. And so we had them multiple days in a row. When you're on a 7th floor like that, when you're in an area like that, they rotate the nurses every day so you're not with the same patients, so that people get different nurses, different people, and they get to learn the different areas. But you're in your area of the floor. So we had the same maybe 5 nurses rotating, but we had these 2 people multiple times, and they were the ones that did my actual transplant. And when we went up there to take this big, huge bowl of candy to the 7th floor, we got to see people who worked the reception desk that we knew, because my mom would have to, didn't get to leave the room very much, but my mom had to leave the room anytime she had to use the restroom or go take a shower or anything there. So someone would have to let her back in and out through the door because the door is always locked. So she knew the receptionists there very well. We got to see them, and then walking down the hallway was this guy, this male nurse. And so he was so excited to see us. We were so happy to talk to him. I gave him all the candy. He took some right away. And I asked him if Rosie was working, and he said yes. So he called her, and she came down the hallway, and I could see her from from far away down the hallway, and she recognized me right away and ran up and gave me a big hug, which is probably not something you're supposed to do on the 7th floor there. But I was so grateful that they even remembered who we were. And I'm sure they were grateful and thinking the same thing of us, that we remembered them. But it was a very wonderful experience to see that and just give them a dumb bowl of candy, which I'm sure people do all the time. But it meant a lot to me that they remembered me. And that was a wonderful experience there. Then we got back on the elevator to go down to the 2nd floor. And on the elevator, we ran into Dr. Amy Wong, and we were just standing in the elevator, and I am very much a ignore people type of person, just stay out of people's way. And so this other person got on the elevator with us, and she looked and looked at me, and she's like, "Hey, I know you," which she remembered. She told me that in the hospital 4 or 5 months before that. 7 or 8. No, it would have been in April or in April when she did that. So we're talking from April all the way to Christmas. So however long that was, but she remembered that she told me, "Hey, I know you." And she said the same thing to me. And we got to tell her Merry Christmas, and we got to see her, and I gave her a hug as well. And it was just the perfect timing because she was such a special doctor to me and such a wonderful person. And that was the last time I saw her because she has a new job now and moved on from her business. I think from her area, from her discipline there. She now runs some dermatology department somewhere else. So she doesn't live in Nebraska anymore, which is sad because I will never get to see her again. But I got to see her one last time before she left, and to tell her Merry Christmas. And she was just so happy to see us and to see that I was doing so well. And that was wonderful. And that was the perfect way I could have scripted out that day, because you never know. I also took a big bowl of candy to the nurses that helped me a lot in Fremont at the hospital there, because I went there a lot. And so the day I took them their big bowl of candy, I went in, there was only one nurse working that I knew. And I knew probably, I would say 8 nurses there that I had worked with regularly the year and a half before I got the transplant. I did a lot of lab taking in Fremont and had some bad stuff happen in Fremont, or some situations arise in Fremont that they had to deal with. And I got to see those nurses a lot. And in their outpatient sort of their center there, what did they call it? Infusion center, the infusion center there. And so I took them this big bowl of candy, but of the 7 to 8 nurses that I knew pretty well, only one was there. And I was very grateful to see her and give her a hug and say hello to her. And then talk to another lady who I talked to on the phone to schedule my appointments all the time. So it was nice to see her. But a majority of the nurses that I was looking forward to seeing weren't there. And so that was a bit of a bummer to me, but I was still grateful that I got to see some of them. But when we went to the 7th floor to give them theirs, I saw all the people. Like that day, it just worked out that all the people that were important to me, I got to see, to give them their Christmas presents and to say Merry Christmas to, and to say hello and to show them how good I was doing. And so that was like the stars aligned, and it was a very perfect day that really worked out nice. So that was my Christmas story. Really fun there. Let's see. I want to talk about medications. I am down to, I think I take 6 pills in the morning and 1 at night. And most of the stuff I'm taking now is very just like, I take a vitamin D. I take an allergy pill every morning, which is it's the equivalent of, not Zyrtec, what's the other one? I've mentioned it before, but I take that. Sorry, my brain's fried right now. So I take an allergy medication, super simple thing. I take a fish oil pill, which I can stop anytime. My doctor said I don't need to take those anymore, but he's like, honestly, we should all take 2 of those every day anyway. So I take 1 of those every morning, which if you're unfamiliar with what fish oil does, look into it. And it can definitely help with a lot of things. And it doesn't taste like fish. People think it's silly. Some of them, I guess I've had a couple. Like I've taken literally like 1,000 over the last year and a half. And I would say maybe of the 1,000 or so that I've taken, maybe like 4 times they had like a fishy taste in them. But otherwise, I've taken 998 pills that are just a regular pill. I take a pantoprazole for high blood pressure and just for stomach stuff. I believe it is like acid reflux or something like that. And then I take allopurinol so that I don't get gout and keep my uric acid levels in check, which I took that before. And then I take acyclovir. But so that's the medication I take. And then at night, I take 1 acyclovir as well. So I take 1 acyclovir in the morning, 1 at night. So I'm just down to very simple medications that are not for anything crazy and don't have any side effects or anything like that. And I do still take atovaquone, which is that bright yellow liquid I've mentioned in like every video about how bad it tastes and how it makes everything inside of me yellow. And I do still do that. Every few days I take that. So that's my medication down from a lot. At one point, I think I was taking 21 pills in the morning and 16 pills in the evening. Let's see what else. So one other thing that, one other hospital story I want to mention real quick is that a couple of months ago, so at the beginning of this year, over the last couple of months, we went back to the liver doctor. And the liver doctor, they did an ultrasound, and they were like, okay, so we know what your liver looks like now, but we want to do more tests. So I went back in February when they had my follow-up scheduled, and they said, we're going to schedule another test for you sometime a little later in the year, and we're going to do some measurements of the pressure leaving your veins and your arteries going from your liver, basically. And so, as far as I understand, that's what it is. So it's like the pressure leaving your liver. He was like, it seems like your pressure is a little higher there than it should be. So we went in and they did some tests, and they said, okay, this is interesting. It looks like you have more pressure than you're supposed to. So we want to do this other test that we're going to tack on to something else that you're supposed to have like routinely scheduled after your transplant. So they said, we're going to do a scope. So we're going to do a scope down your throat, and they're going to check for the side of my wall of my esophagus. There can be these like little nubs that form and can cause some problems or something. And then if they do form This is because of the transplant. If they do form, they have to go in and do a procedure where they like tie a little rubber band to them and it kills the like lump of whatever it is, and then it falls off or whatever. I don't know how that works, but it's like they said we're going to scope down your throat and we're going to check your esophagus for that, which they didn't find anything there, which was really nice. And then because we're doing that, we're going to continue down and we'll be right next to your liver in your esophagus. So we're going to basically do a special measurement of your liver and the pressure in your veins leaving your liver from inside of you and do that. And I was like, okay, sure. So the day we came into the hospital to do that was a very bad day. Other than like the Christmas thing was a perfect day that worked out perfectly. This day was a bad day. I went to this is totally my fault. We are so familiar with the hospital. This should never happen to us, but we went to the wrong part of the hospital and we had to walk across the entire thing. We were very late, which we're always early for every appointment, but we were late. We went to check in at the wrong place. We had to go back downstairs to check in. When we checked in, there was a financial problem that they had to do, and I had to sign this waiver, and I didn't know if I should or not, and it was very confusing. So we were so late when I actually got up and checked in and to the room, and they took me into the surgery waiting area. They basically just rushed me through the process to get me to the surgery or the procedure. And so they had it all set up where the anesthesia was not going to put me out all the way. But then at the last second, they found out that they were also doing this liver measurement. And so they're like, okay, wait, hold on. We have to change what we're doing now. We have to do more anesthesia. We have to put you out completely. So that was a thing that was weird. But when they first took me into the surgery waiting area, it's like these little cubicles that are about the size of a closet. And they have a curtain that goes over the front of them. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're right next to each other, these little cubicles with a curtain. And every time I've gone in there, which is I think like 4 or 5 times now, they put me in the same cubicle right next to the nurses' station so I can just sit there and hear the nurses gossip. And I was in the same run right there. So my nurse brings me in, puts me in. She starts filling out my chart a little bit and says she'll be right back. She leaves, comes back. We're working on chart stuff. She tells me to, put my shoes and my clothes in this, put my gown on. So I put my gown on. And she comes back in and we're, talking about stuff. And one of the nurses at the desk goes, there's a phone call. She picks up the phone and we heard her go, and we could tell it was like a worried, like shocked, like, and so we stop talking to each other and we look over to see what she's doing. And the nurse is like, no, she's on the phone. She goes, no, how could this happen? No. And my nurse looks at me and she goes, hold on a second. So she goes out and she closes the curtain. Like that's going to do anything. Walks 3 feet over and talks to this lady. And it turns out that the guy in cubicle 1 down the hall from me, it's all one big open room, but the guy in the first cubicle had COVID. And he had gone to the hospital that day, gotten a COVID test because they have to test him for whatever procedure he was doing. They didn't have to test me. Or no, they did. They did test me that day. So everyone before a procedure must have to get tested. So they tested him and he tested positive for COVID and he had symptoms that he was showing. And so the nurses were so mad that the guy had COVID and they were just freaking out. They were like, what are we going to do? And I was just like, no, please don't like make us evacuate. It was a crazy situation. And the nurses were like swearing. They were like, oh, how could this happen? And so the nurse comes in and she's like, well, did you hear any of that? I go, yeah. And she goes, well, we're not going to do anything for now, but your thing, you're almost ready to go. So we're just going to have her come in, the anesthesia come in, tell you what this going on. And then they're just going to take you. And I was like, okay. So they came in and took me. And all I found out was that they took the guy and had to put him in an isolated like ward himself. And all the nurses had to put on masks because over the last 4 or 5 months or so, they've been getting more lax with the masks in certain areas of the hospital, which is very nice to be able to actually see people's faces for the first time. You see people for 2 years, you've never seen their face. You just see this, and then all of a sudden you see their face and you're like, oh geez, I didn't even know you had a beard, But anyway, that was a crazy, crazy day. And then they take me down, wheel me down there. And I was like, okay, whatever, here we go. And then they put you under and you wake up and you are just groggy as heck and you have no idea what happened. But I'm actually happy with the way it did happen because I didn't have to be awake through any of it, which the original intention was for me to be awake through all of it. So that was nice. So one last thing I want to mention, and this is just sort of a for people who are watching, if you only watch these cancer videos, I just want to mention a couple things, and that is about like life going back to normal. And I can see it's 5 o'clock right now. I have a very important reaction scheduled in 1 hour, so I've got to try to make this pretty quick. But I just wanted to mention a couple of things that I have done since we got out of the hospital that really helped me feel like getting back into the swing of things. First, hanging out and spending time with my sister and my niece and my nephew is like the most important thing in the world to me. And it means so much to me when I get that precious time. And I just love spending time with them. With my niece and my nephew are like the two greatest people on the planet. I absolutely love them. And I would do anything for them. And so I've gotten to do some really fun things with them. Specifically, after we got out of the hospital last year in the fall, we went to Vala's Pumpkin Patch in Omaha, Nebraska, which is something we do every year. And I wasn't too sure how much I was going to be able to walk around, like what my physical condition was going to be. And I am very happy to say that I made it around. We made it through the whole thing like we do every year. And I was probably even better than I have been in years past. And that was a really fun thing that we got to do. Also, we went on a vacation earlier this year, my first family vacation in probably like a decade or so. The first time I've left Nebraska in a long time. I got permission from my doctors and everyone. They were like, yeah, you basically do whatever you want to do. You know, you just got to be careful, you know, don't be stand in a crowd of people all spitting on each other. It's like, oh, don't go to a metal show then. But we went to the very northern part of California to see the redwood forest, and then we went north into the southern middle part of Oregon to meet my aunt and uncle there, and we stayed at this amazing house for 4 days that was right on the beach. It was amazing. I'll put some videos and pictures and stuff here so you guys can see what that was like. But that was an experience I'll never forget, and something I got to do with my sister and my niece and my nephew and my mom and my dad, and I'll never forget about that. It was amazing. And I want to shout out to my aunt and uncle, Aunt Connie and Uncle Terry too, for helping us do all of that. It was very wonderful. Okay, everybody, we're on vacation now. We're just leaving the house.
Here we go, California. Here we go.
But no, we're going past it.
This is a steep hill. Okay, anarchy.
It's also probably because we're 7,000 feet.
That's true. Welcome to Echo Canyon.
Take a picture of me.
But can I do it?
Oh, look at the ocean.
I can't see.
Come here.
There's a resting.
Look at the ocean.
I've got a lot of chances.
It's like the Goonies. It's just like the Goonies.
It's like the Goonies.
Why are there no
We should walk up to the lighthouse.
There's no sandals.
That's what I told you. This beach, when we go to commentary, we will have a beach with sand. This is just more of a rocky beach.
Oh, she wouldn't go far if she fell.
No.
There's a roof too.
Ain't that something, Chloe?
You don't want to get in the water. Don't get in my
Okay,
and don't get water.
releading it. We don't even have to try with that one. Hold on, Chloe. I want to.
Yeah. You look at the road. There's two decks, and I went on the one deck.
We went on the balcony in the front, and the floor is spongy.
Yeah, and say we made it.
She's going off into the woods, man. Because when you want to talk to someone, you go to the woods.
Would she send out a
That's what Taylor Swift says.
bird with a note?
No, she's gonna get a
Bird with a note.
she's gonna get a wooden
Watch.
stake.
Shh.
Watch her pick up the stake.
This is important.
You're impossibly fast and strong. Your skin is pale white and ice cold.
This is just like the Goblet of Fire.
It is very much.
17.
Except
How old are you? 17.
he is 7
How long have you been 17?
forever.
A while.
Hello, everybody, from the coast at Oregon here. Just wanted to say hi and be back home next week. Okay, everybody, so we've been on vacation for the last like 2 weeks, and we're finally coming back home. We're gonna be back to where we left from in a few minutes. What has anybody got to say?
Nothing.
What was that?
Nothing.
Got
What,
nothing
what
to
do
say?
you remember we saw on vacation, Chloe?
The pool?
The pool? We saw lots of pools. Did we see the ocean?
Ocean. Oh, look at that.
Did we
Pet
see?
a shark.
Did you pet a shark?
Yes.
What did you do? You pet a shark?
Yeah.
Did you see big trees?
Yeah.
Did we walk in the trees?
Yes.
High up in the trees.
High with ropes on a bridge?
Popo swam in the ocean.
Yes.
We all got in the ocean.
I was running away from it.
Chloe was running away from the ocean after her feet got wet.
Yep,
It
that's
about
true.
took us out once, didn't it?
Hunter, what do you got to say?
Oh, hi.
Hunter liked run amok.
Yeah.
We met Miss Jill.
She gave us candy.
She gave us taffy.
Oh,
We saw a fire truck
I see you, Patrick. Hi. Bye.
upside
Hi,
down.
bye.
and
Hi,
upside
bye.
up.
Yeah, because we got to see the fire henge.
Patrick, I see half of
Fire
you.
truck
No, you don't.
inch, yeah.
Yeah.
We got to see a lot of mountains.
We got to see a lot of mountains. We had a lot of fun. We got to go to the ocean. We looked for rocks, but we only picked up a few of them.
I got the bracelet maker
Chloe got a cool bracelet maker
and more allergies.
and more allergies.
We drove 3,930
More allergies.
miles.
What, Dad?
More
drove
allergies. More allergies.
913 miles.
3,913 miles.
More
I got
things,
shoes.
not more allergies.
Sarah got some shoes.
And I got
We all bought some interesting and different things,
and we
but
all brought
we all brought our feet.
And fresh saltwater taffy, I think, was my favorite, along with the homemade blown glass balls that they make out.
Yep.
And we stayed at the, which motel?
Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn.
Some are good, some
Many
Yep.
times.
Yep.
are right.
Oceanfront Lodge.
We got to see the redwood trees of California.
Redwood Forest. Redwood Forest.
The golf.
We stayed with Connie and Terry at their house.
We got to see a cruise ship and a tugboat or something on the
We got to see some
river.
boats.
Lots of deer.
Lots of
elk on the railroad tracks.
an elk on some railroad tracks.
We saw fox before we even left home. That
Yep.
started our trip.
That's true. We got I bought a couple records and some CDs, and we got everything stowed away, and we're about to be getting home.
And I brought nothing.
What did you do
Chloe
before
bought
we left?
nothing,
We painted rocks before we left and left rocks
Yep, we painted rocks and left them all over the United States.
that said Nebraska and people's names on them.
Some of them did. Okay, you're gonna put it right underneath there, and you can see it says Harlow right there. There's snow. Should we write Chloe?
Or Princess.
Look, Chloe's name right there. Oh, hey! Go take a snowball and throw it at Hunter on the car.
In the car?
Yeah, go throw it on the car. Not at me!
Let's go in the car.
Yep. Yeah, let's go.
Oh, the hands are full! Oh, go. Look at this thing.
You can see it there.
Okay, we sure can.
Nice. Okay, point to the rock. Oh, in there. Can I take a picture of it?
Yeah, it's never gonna get rained on.
It'll never get rained on. That's so cool.
So it's never gonna wash off.
Mom, you want to come point to where Chloe put the rock? We stopped at a station here. We're in Montana still, I think. Right there. Little Prague, Nebraska rock. Yep. All right, we got the Curtis rock. Chloe, I'm gonna go put it in the rocks. Hey Mom, where are we at? Rapid City, South Dakota. Chloe, I put it over there by the thing, okay? And we're here, we're by Kodaka, South Dakota. And it's over there by the fence. She put it, okay, let's see. There's the bluey rock. Yep. Okay, so we got home from vacation and we are currently trying to get everything in the house, figure everything out, and we only have one more thing to do, and that is to take our last rock, and we had 2 rocks left at the end. Oh wait, we have 2 rocks, I guess. Okay, didn't realize that. So we have 2 rocks left that we didn't put anywhere. We have this Nebraska rock, and it's got squiggles on the other side. And then we have this Nebraska rock, and then Chloe wrote her name on there. So these are the last 2 rocks we have, and we are back home, vacation's over, and so we are going to take these, and we are just gonna put them here in the rocks in our front yard, and that's it. The trip is over. I also got to, I released an album earlier this year. Something has been a goal of mine for a long time and something I've been working on since 2021. So I'll have links for that in the description if you want to check out my Bandcamp, or you can check out the music that I released earlier this year. It's an album I made with my nephew Hunter back in 2021. It has to do with Harry Potter, something we worked on very hard. It's an album full of songs, and we released a whole single season podcast as well of Hunter reading through the first Harry Potter book for the very first time. And that's something that I spent so much time working on for years, and I'm very proud of that project being done and out, and I haven't pushed it very hard or anything like that, but it is something that's there. It's available for everyone to look at. You can check out the podcast. It's called Hurry Potter, Hurry, Hurry Potter. You can look it up on Spotify or wherever there are podcasts, and you can listen to every episode. Every episode features original music written by Hunter and I, performed by us, made by me, everything like that. You can listen to all the songs on my Bandcamp. You can buy the album there if you want to in digital format. You can check it all out there, but you can just listen to the songs for free there. So go check that out. That is something I'm very proud of. And then also another thing would be, I've been working for this Harry Potter podcast called Alohomora for the last 14 years. And I started in 14 years ago, I guess. What was it, 2012? I want to say. Yeah, 2012 is when we started, April of 2012. I started on episode 4, and we ended that show this year. So the last episode of Alohomora was episode 500. It was released at the end of April of this year, or maybe the beginning part of May. I can't remember exactly. But it was our 14-year anniversary. We released 500 episodes. Of the 500 episodes, I edited a vast majority of them, though I wasn't the only editor. And if you care about Harry Potter at all, I would recommend going and listening to the final 10 episodes of the show. I worked very, very hard on my episodes. Our other editor, Catherine, she worked on her episodes very hard. And I am so proud of how that whole project worked. It was very, very hard to get through some of the difficult, very ridiculous situations that happened over the last 14 years. But that was something that even while I was in the hospital, until I went into the hospital to have my transplant in April of last year, I had never missed editing an episode of Alohomora. For the previous 13 years, I had worked on at least one episode of Alohomora a month, and if not multiple episodes a month for 13 years. And so we had to get people to fill in for me while I was in the hospital for those 100 days. And then when we got out of the hospital, I went back into the routine of editing my episodes every other week. And then also editing Three Broomsticks, the other Harry Potter podcast, on the off weeks of Alohomora. And so doing things like that, and those two podcasts in particular, really helped me feel a sense of normalcy and a sense of accomplishment, being able to do something and get it out there for people, along with running the channel here, which I never stopped doing even when we were in the hospital. But I wanted to just mention those things. Those are some pretty big life things that happened that I'm very happy with and very proud of all of that stuff. So, okay, everybody, very quickly, I just want to mention, I was kind of bummed. You know, the day that I recorded this video, I had sat down with my mom and we talked about like important events and things that we wanted to bring up. And I was more focusing on things that, were relevant to the hospital and to my cancer journey. However, I wanted to say, I thought about this after the fact, and I wish it's something I would have said in the video, so I'll just bring it up here. But I wanted to talk about the idea that how important my family is to me, and especially my niece and my nephew. And, when you're in the hospital going through stuff like that, like I'd gone through, you find little things to look forward to, right? You find these little things here and there to kind of look forward to, and things that kind of help get you through difficult moments. And one of those things for me was, before I had my transplant, way back at the beginning of the year, maybe even at the end of 2025, my nephew had asked me if I would be his sponsor for his confirmation. So he wanted me to be his official godparent. No, I am his godparent. He wanted me to be his sponsor. So I am his godfather. And we did that. That was like a birth thing when he was baptized. But he wanted me to be his sponsor as well. And so that was one of the things I wanted to mention that I did get to do in the fall of last year, 2025. And it was something that was on my mind a lot while we were in the hospital. You know, it was like I want to try to be ready, good to go for that. And so we got to go do that. It was at a very beautiful church. It was up near where my sister and my nephew and my niece live, about 2.5 hours away from where we live. And it was in this awesome, crazy, huge, beautiful, like cathedral-style church that was just in the middle of this small town of like 50 people. It was crazy. But we had a lot of fun that day, and it was something that I had been looking forward to for a long time. And so I think that was a very important, special moment for me, and I hope it was a special moment for Hunter as well. But I wanted to mention that in this video because it was something that I had regretted not thinking about when I sat down to actually record this video. So I just wanted to pop myself into the video here real quick and say that that's something that was very important to me, and I don't want to forget that happened. So, all right, okay, back to the video. It's 5 o'clock. I got to end this video, so I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. I don't know if I'll do another update until next April. We'll see what happens. If something happens, I will keep people posted, but I always mention things in my videos, my reactions here on the channel, you know, little things like doing really well today or had to go to the hospital for this or whatever. But just know everything is fine. I want to say to anybody out there who watches this, if you have cancer, if you have someone someone that is close to you that has cancer, do not be afraid to talk to them about it. Do not be afraid to walk up to the person on the street and talk to them about it, because they want to talk about it and they deserve to talk about it, and they should get to talk about it because it helps to talk about it. And no subject should really be off limits when you're talking about this type of thing. That's what I've learned. And so remember, if you want to learn more about cancer and ways that you can contribute, you can go to cancer.gov to learn. And you can also, I also think it's a really great idea for people wherever you are in the world to go to the website of the nearest big hospital, the nearest big hospital close to you. Go to their website, and I guarantee they will have a section about cancer there, and you can learn about ways that you can help, especially sign up for the donor list for bone marrow. It is not a very invasive process for the person who's donating. It literally saved my life. It literally saved my life. And they need people of all sorts, of all body types, all type of person they need. And so the more people sign up for that, it's like I said, it's minimally invasive for the person who's doing it. So I want to encourage everybody to at least look into what it is. It's all you do is go in and basically donate blood. It's the same kind of process plus a little bit more, but it doesn't do anything different to you. It doesn't hurt. You just have to take medications for like 2 days beforehand. And they need everybody, every type of person. So I would highly encourage everybody to go look that up. Go to cancer.gov, like I said, look at the website for your local hospital. Go talk to somebody about it. You know, it's very important, and it was the most important thing to me. So thank you to everybody for watching this video, and I will keep you posted on stuff. I might put some videos and stuff at the end of this video here, just as like a kind of a feel-good thing, maybe of our vacation or something, but I've been talking for 2 hours, so I don't really need to take up any more of your time, but thank you very much for watching, and I have a couple of other cancer videos I'm thinking about doing maybe sometime over the next couple months, so we'll see what ends up happening, but in terms of this one, we can end it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Is it harder going down or up, Chloe? You just got to step off.
When this first started,
Drive back in the crazy wet. Okay, how? You're going crazy. Okay, what are you doing? You on a roller coaster again? What are you doing? You're not on a roller coaster. You're driving back with the medicine. The medicine. No, it's not medicine. It's milk. All you're doing is bringing milk in a cup. Get milk in a cup. Go. Go. That's already bigger than it was.
Right here.
Let's get picked that one.
It's starting. I don't know that it's.
Well, look at that. Is that watermelon?
But it's getting yellow. Like the stem is starting to get yellow, so I don't know.
Woo!
Are they behind us yet? Not yet. Chloe, say hi. So we had a tree fall down here on the yard, and we've been working on cleaning it up. It's a tree we've had for a long time here, and it's kind of a bummer that it fell down. It's a white mulberry tree. There's no mulberries on it right now. There's still part of the tree attached to the ground here, so we'll see what ends up happening. We're working on the process of cleaning it up, but kind of a bummer. So. There goes the tree, Mom. Oh, boo. Like this.
No tree gone. Boo.
Yeah, but it's nice to clean it up.
It is nice.
Your flowers look pretty back there.
Pretty awesome.
Sorry, wait, start here. That way we don't have to worry about that. Okay, go ahead.
That you normally had down by the North Pole.
Get out of the way!
Not him. Foul. And then Chloe, this light lights up too. I'll show you. Look at the light. See it here? Watch. Oh, look, watch it from here.
She thinks it's gonna light. It's too light to see. You can't tell.
Oh, you can't tell.
Okay.
Well, this is supposed to be for my costume, but you can't really talk with this in your mouth. So I'm not sure how it will work, or if it can work. If it stays there, I'm not sure if it will work. I just don't know. I guess I'll have to talk like Jimmy Stewart the entire time, but I guess that's okay. If I have to talk like a glowing Jimmy Stewart. Oh, it's so silly. But it might be cool. We'll see. Oh, yes, we will.
He's got it. Go through. Go through. Step over. Ah, yeah. Hi, Grandma. How are you doing? What's in the box, Hunter?
A Christmas present.
What's in the box? She fell asleep.
We'd sit on the back of the car and watch it rain from the garage.
If I were you guys at your house, I would have gone into the little house.
Where's that chair?
There's one.
Where's Chloe?
Rather say
It hasn't hit the deck yet.
it has.
Oh no, we got it. There we go.
One more time on that.
One more? Where at?
This far corner.
That one? This
No,
one?
that one. Yeah. No, I mean out the one that's under the brick.
Oh, I can do that too.
Okay, that's
Good. Okay, you can take it off. There you go. I like it. That's good. Pull, pull.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
Baby dolphin. It smells just like my hoodie for some reason. Oh no. Wait, we gotta look. I'm not sure if that's not normal. Okay, I see you're just being a weirdo. Now, oh, she's down. Look at him go.
Some are probably gonna go to Mars.
Get him, get him.
To Mars. Marks or Mars?
You got a winter coat on or what?
Do it again, Chloe.
I'm not gonna be cold.
Not gonna be cold.
Do it again. Grandma, watch. Woo! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
Fun people fast.
Tally ho. I can only take
two at once. But my goodness, it's really, I mean, they're not, I mean, I could maybe carry more, but holy cow. Oh, they are. Oh, these things are solid. They are solid. Oh, and there's the last one. Okay. Whew.
You gotta say it.
I know. All right. This has been episode 100 of the final 100. And for the very last time here, I'm Allison Sigurd.
I'm Noah Freed.
I'm Caleb Graves.
I'm Laura Riley.
I'm Rosie Morris.
I am Eric Skull.
I'm Kristen Keys.
I'm Michael Harley.
I am Aurelia Lieb.
I'm Sam Williams. I'm Irvin Cateman.
I'm Katie Carty-Hiley.
I'm Rex Haddadden.
I'm John Daigle.
I'm Catherine Lewis.
I'm Patrick Musilek.
I'm Grace Candido Beecher.
I'm Jeff Hutton.
I'm Bianca Lynch.
I'm Asher Chelder.
I'm Josh Cook.
I'm Tracy Dunstan.
And I'm Kat Miller. Thank you for listening to episode 500 of Alohomora. Close the Dumbledore.
There was no looking on the other side after you. Oh, it sure took off up that hill. Yeah, there are always slides up here.
All right, Hunter's trying this thing.
Car. After that, then you want to hit the bridge, that's fine.
Pretty good. Let's show it to us. Oh, that looks pretty good. You like it? Mm-hmm. And you like your peanut butter shake thing? Mm-hmm. First time at Scooters. All right, it's filming. We'll just try.
Which way do I hold it? Like that?
No, go sideways with it.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, we'll see what happens. Okay, red button.
I'm like this.
Oh, God. Okay.
You'll want to it'll explode, 20 feet that way.
I'll just try it. We'll see. I might try another one. I am filming, so.
It ain't gonna hurt you.
Whoa, that one was a lot louder.
I can see you. Yep.
Hold on, wait.
Don't open it yet.
Ow. Okay. All right, angle it away. Okay, you can see us?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick Musilek.
I'm Cody Musilek.
No relation. And we wanted to tell you happy 250th birthday for the greatest country in the whole world of the United States of America.
That's right.
And yeah.
Oh.
Merry Christmas.
Happy 4th.
And all that stuff. Woo.
Nice.
Donkey tickets are
Wow.
6 o'clock duck races.
Whoa. Whoa.
Whoa. Top auto sales at a meeting.
They're all over.
Used vehicle dealer offering flatbeds, grill guards, and
Woo.
those for your needs.
Good job.
Top auto sales and meeting.
That was awesome. Hey, this is what. Yeah. Orange, baby. Orange, you glad? Yo, here is pink. The best. Yo, I was wrong before. This is apparently red, baby. Red. Yeah. Yo, everybody, now it's time for YOLO. YOLO. Oh no. Now it's time. Ouch. Now it's time for the blue. Blue, baby. Blue. Ow. Okay, everybody, we're here today with green. It's just a few seconds from the last one. Ouch. Oh, I didn't realize those were there. I'm so stupid. Anyway, here's green. Here's the green one. Haha. Look at this. Oh, look, I've let out a noxious, gassy fart behind me. Oh, look at that. Ooh. Yo, everybody, we're here today with some purple. Here it comes. It just don't want to stay away.
It's like Terry.
We got purple. Look at this purple. It's amazing. It's amazing. Look at it. What do you think? What do you think, Sarah?
It's a lot, but I like
Purple. All right, everybody, we have the last color here, and it's Chloe's favorite. It's purple. Look at the purple.
Pink.
Wow.
It's pink.
Wow, I'm dumb. It's pink. It's clearly labeled pink. This is pink. This right here is pink. Chloe, what do you have to say about pink? We're gonna watch Twilight New Moon for the first time. What are your thoughts beforehand?
Everyone in the show is stupid.
Okay. Are you just drinking the Kool-Aid, or you really think that?
Yeah.
They're awesome. I love watching them.
Maybe take a picture. Maybe we could get one printed and take it to the fair. Take a picture. Yeah. Okay, that's enough.
Look, these orange jelly. There's orange jelly.
This is a taco shell that my grandma made. She has never made anything like this at all. So I'm gonna try it right now for the first time. Homemade taco shell. Tastes like a regular tortilla shell.
What are you burning yourself on? Wow.
What do you think, Chloe? You gonna have a grandma's homemade tortilla?
No.
Nope, just a regular one. All right, bye.
We hope you had a good time. Now we're saying goodbye. Thanks for the love that we shared, but we're falling behind. So hurry up, and hurry back. We're Hurry Potter.
Yes, sir.
We had a lot of fun and now it's time we gotta go. But don't you fret, we'll see you on the next episode. You know. That's Patrick. That's Roger. That's the music. That's the credits. That's it.
Look at the cotton in the air around the sun. It's crazy. Like, if you just looked at it, you probably wouldn't even know it was there. But it is just, it's so obvious and crazy.
It looks like particle effects. That is so cool. So cool.